So what I'm about to say, there's no evidence for this. It's not in any JFK files or any of that. I just think that this is likely what happened to JFK. And it's the complete opposite of what everybody's been told. Early on in America's history, we had secret militias in the colonies. They knew who they were. They weren't called the Proud Boys. They weren't called uh, 3%ers or what. You didn't know what their names were. But every colony had these secret militias, these secret people. They were just everyday citizens. They weren't army, none of that. And they had them there so that if the Native Americans came in trying to kill them, because even though everybody says, oh no, we were killing all the indigenous people, no, it was also the other way around. So they had them there to protect them if any of the Native Americans came in trying to slaughter them, or the Brits. So they've always been a part of, I don't want to say the system, but a last resort protection. And you can say that's right or wrong, but you have to think about it from a different angle, okay? If I can read, and I've read the JFK files, if I can read those and realize, man, JFK was trying to hurt us, do you think that the FBI and CIA didn't know it? When they likely knew even more than most of us? No, they knew. They saw he took us into a nuclear standoff with Russia within 1 week of his entering the presidency. He effed up the Bay of Pigs, which even a kindergartner couldn't have done. So he did it on purpose. Do you think that he didn't see these things, then realize, you know what, they're tied to, people were worried about this Catholic stuff. And then on top of it, the Kennedys always talking about wanting a fascist country. They wanted, especially Joe Kennedy, wanted America to be a fascist country. That's why they admired Hitler. Because Hitler wasn't communist, but he was a fascist. And it's basically a dictator for life kind of thing. And who do you think that dictator would be, religiously speaking? The Catholic Church. So if you sit back and think, then you could see the CIA and FBI thinking, oh shit, this country will be in a civil war from from one end of the nation to the other. Because consider how America began. It began because of the Catholic Church in England. So then, to have that happen in a possible scenario with the direction Kennedy was going, I'm just saying, and then his brother gets shot. Am I saying it's right? Well, I'm saying that there may be people that you just never know of they absolutely exist. They will never let a communist take this country. They won't. The CIA was known for helping smaller countries take these groups down. These groups come in under the label of, we're International Workers United and we're here to free you, and we want to bring in a different kind of socialism. And so when these smaller countries realized what these groups were doing, you can say it's right or wrong, but it should be obvious what these groups are up to. You see them right now. That's what Anna Paulina is. That's what Steve Bannon is. That's what all of them serve. Not to help you. They want the fascist system. So for countries that are free, they would ask the CIA to intervene. And sometimes they wouldn't, but they'd watch them. They did monitor them. Because the CIA doesn't really monitor inside the country. Well, who knows now. But they were always the ones that monitored outside for any threats to us coming from outside. The FBI deals with nationally. However, they would, and how they would deal with groups in other countries is they didn't hurt them. They just would infiltrate them and divert their directions to try to weaken the group, so that if the government was facing a coup, things like that, they could stop just by doing that. Now, the CIA's been known to use paramilitary groups such as the mob for things that are bigger. But in all honesty, under J. Edgar Hoover hated communism. If we had people in like him under George Bush, or even before, we would have 9/11 never would have taken place. God, they would have nipped that in the bud. But we've gotten all these bad people in, and I'm not saying they were a part of it, but I am saying they likely looked the other way. So, because they're not, you know. But I think we need an FBI and CIA is my point, because these groups do exist. And you see them, they're Weather Underground, they're the Black Panthers. I'm reading a book right now about a group called the Christian Front. Yes. Oh, we're combating communism. Yeah, and they're horrible, horrible. But they get all this power. So look at MLK for a moment, okay? J. Edgar Hoover and MLK met and had a civilized conversation. And J. Edgar Hoover just asked him outright. He's like, why do you have to have communists as your right-hand people? Like, how hard is it for you to not do, like, why do you have to do that? And then you want to complain that why we're monitoring you. Well, that's why. Yeah, it's because they knew how these groups worked. And then King has this national movement everywhere. By the way, the tent cities, you know, in Washington, D.C. that Trump is cleaning up, that started with MLK. Don't assume those are all really homeless people. Mm-mm. See, MLK had that going on, the tent cities. What is it for? Well, it's meant to demoralize your country, make you think, oh, look at all these poor people in these tents and right on Washington's, you know, Capitol, and the government does not, that's what it's supposed to do, is cause this. And I would imagine many of those people in those tents aren't homeless. They go home at night and they just make themselves look like they're homeless. I'm not saying that we have no homeless. I'm just saying in Washington, D.C., and MLK had a whole constructed tent city built, all for a protest. So that's how manipulative those groups are. So that's why you need a CIA and FBI. So, and you know, I know that RFK was taken out too. Well, he was running for president. Could have been the same problem. I would imagine they probably have told the Kennedys, do not keep running. You may think that's wrong, but if you look at it from their perspective, no, they would, at least back then, this is not who the CIA and FBI are today, but they were trying to protect us. So, think what you want. That's my opinion, is it was likely a paramilitary operation that took them out. Not because they hated our freedoms, but because they loved our freedoms. And they saw too many red flags, more than red flags. I mean, when you're elected president and within the first week you take us in the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's like, and then just all this other stuff. There's so many things I can list. I don't have time. So, and MLK, again, why was he tied to communists? And I'm not saying it was that case with him. I think actual communists may have killed him, just so because they would love to make the white country, America, look racist. I'm not saying CIA, or I'm not even saying any of that is true. I'm just saying when you read the JFK files, the CIA did not hate America. Quite the opposite. By the way, Anna Paulina, Luna's father, was reportedly Catholic, but she has stated that he raised her as a Messianic Jew, which combines elements of Judaism and Christianity. Her family members have disputed her claims about her religious background, suggesting that her father did not practice Judaism during her upbringing. Her own family saying that she's lying. That's who these people are.